Euzubillahimineşşeytanirracim. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Rabbi şrah li sadri ve yessir li emri ve hlul ukdeden min lisani yefkahu kavli. Selamun aleyküm ve rahmetullahi ve berekatuh. We intend to continue with the second station of the 20th word. We have Amin here with us. Inshallah, he will lead the discussion.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. The second station of the 20th word, a flash of the Quran's miraculousness, which shines on the miracles of the prophets. Note carefully the two questions and answers at the end. In the name of God, the merciful, the compassionate, nor anything fresh or dry, but is in a record clear. So this is a ayah from Quran, chapter 6, ayah number 59. Does anyone know the original? Would like to recite? Okay, thank you. Again, the verse we are studying today is, nor anything fresh or dry, but is in a record clear. Okay? 14 years ago, and now 30 years have passed, in my Quranic commentary called Isharatul Ijaz, Signs of Miraculousness, I wrote a discussion in Arabic about one of the mysteries of this verse. Now, two of my brothers, whose wishes are important, and in my view, have asked for an explanation of that discussion in Turkish, and now we are reading the translation of that. And so, relying on Almighty God's assistance and on the effulgence of the Quran, I say this. According to one interpretation, the clear book or record consists of the Quran. The above verse states that everything fresh or dry is found within it. Is that so? Yes, everything is found in it, but everyone cannot see this, for all the things it contains are found at different levels. Again, I'm reading the last sentence again. Yes, everything is found in it, but everyone cannot see this, for all the things it contains are found at different levels. Sometimes the seeds, sometimes the nuclei, sometimes the summaries, sometimes the principles, sometimes the signs are found either explicitly or implicitly, or elusively, or vaguely, or as a reminder. One of these is expressed according to need in a manner suitable to the purposes of the Quran. One of these is expressed according to need in a manner suitable to the purposes of the Quran and in connection with requirements of the position. In connection with requirements of the position. Okay. For instance, things like the airplane, electricity, railways, and the telegraph have come into existence as wonders of science and technology as a result of man's progress in science and industry. Surely, all-wise Quran, which addresses all mankind, does not neglect these. Indeed, it has not neglected them. It indicates them in two ways. So let me reread the last sentence with the proper subject. Indeed, Quran has not neglected science, the man's progress in science and industry. Quran indicates man's progress in science and industry in two ways. The first, in the form of the miracles of the prophets, prophetic miracles. The second is this, it indicates, the Quran indicates them, again, science and technology in short, in the form of certain historical events. For instance, Ooh. Okay. So I'm gonna read these the English translation of these several verses. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Oh, to the makers of the pit of fire, fire supplied abundantly with fuel. Behold, they sat over against the fire, and they witnessed all that they were doing against the believers. And they ill-treated them for no other reason than that they believed in God. And they ill-treated them for no other reason than that they believed in God, the mighty, the one to whom all praise is due. This is chapter 85, verses from 4 to 8. Likewise, another verse is coming. In the loaded ark, there's an asterisk here, but I'm not sure where the footnote is.
So it's the end of the verse. It's not the footnote.
Oh, okay. In the loaded ark. Oh, okay. I see what you meant. Thank you. I got it. In the loaded ark. And we have created for them similar vessels on which they ride. Quran chapter 36, 41, 42. Just as verses like these point to the railway. Oh, okay. So there's a footnote with this verse. I just recited. In the loaded ark, and we have created for them similar vessels on which they ride. This sentence indicates that the railway has taken the world of Islam prisoner. Yeah, obviously, we study this, but it's the author is referring to the historical events, the time of the writing of these books, where the railway, I mean, it's a deep subject, and there are experts in the room. I'm sure they will chime in and talk about this.
Experts on political issues?
Politics, history, and colonialism and all that. The unbelievers defeated Islam with it. Just as verses like these point to the railway, so the following verse alludes to electricity, as well as pointing to numerous other lights and mysteries. God is the light of the heavens and the earth. The parable of his light is as if there were a niche and within it a lamp. The lamp enclosed in glass, the glass as it were a brilliant star, lit from a blessed tree, an olive, neither of the east nor of the west, whose oil is well nigh luminous, though the fire scarce touched it. Light upon light. Scarce touched it. Light upon light. God guides whom he wills to his light. So these are, the footnote, or first the reference, that's again the Quran chapter 24, verse number 35. And there's a footnote right after light upon light. The sentence, whose oil is well nigh luminous, though the fire scarce touched it, light upon light, illuminates that illusion. Okay, so this verse, or this section of the verse, alludes to what? Illuminates that illusion. What illusion? Oh, the electricity. Okay. So yeah, that verse refers, according to the author, that verse refers to the electricity. Since numerous people have occupied themselves with this second sort, and they are in need of much care and elucidation, and since they are many, for now we shall content ourselves with these verses that allude to the railway and electricity, and shall not open that door. Which door?
So he mentioned two way of reading. The first, in the form of miracles of the prophets. The second, historical. And he's now saying the second part is already studied by many people, so we shouldn't touch upon that. Instead, we will
focus on the first one. Yes. I'm going to repeat what's already been said on that. Okay. So yeah, I guess I'll stop here. in a nutshell, so there are some references from scripture, and the author is pointing out the fact that the Quran, the question was, let's start with the question. The question was, hey, there's a lot of progress in the world, and the Quran is the most all-wise source of knowledge and guidance. Is there any reference or in the Quran that talks about all this progress that we see in front of our eyes? So that was my understanding of the question. All these different gadgets, devices, commodities, aircrafts, especially in electricity and railways in this context. And Nursi provided a few verses, according to him, pointing to these technological advancements. One being the railway, the second one being the electricity. But obviously, this is a very rudimentary, just elementary school level of summary of the text. So I just wanted to get a overall bird-eyes view of the text so far we read, so that we get ourselves, we warm up ourselves to the text. So what are obviously I don't see who is online and what's being said, but okay. So before we start going deeper into this subject, does anyone from the room here or online participants want to jump in and share their immediate perspectives? Okay, I don't see that anyone from online. Okay, so hey, go ahead.
Well, I think really the most important aspect of this section is that in his second paragraph, he says, according to one interpretation, the clear book or record consists of the Quran. The above verse states that everything fresh or dry is found within it. Is that so? Yes, everything is found in it, but everyone cannot see this. For all the things it contains are found at different levels, sometimes the seed, sometimes the nuclei, sometimes the summary, sometimes the principles, sometimes the signs, whether they're explicit, implicit, or elusive, or vague, or as a reminder. So I think in that sense, when one reads the Quran, especially, verses that pertain to, as he says, miracles or sort of events that happen, in history, they're applicable because they are all within the clear book, as he says. Or is it, I forget, I have to look at the verse again. Is it Kitab al-Mubin or Imam al-Mubin? But which, he does make a distinction.
Kitab al-Mubin.
Kitab al-Mubin. Okay, so when these verses are read, it should be read in light of the fact that they're from this clear book. So how is this applicable to me? How are these verses applicable to me in my time, in my context or situation? Because what they're expressing are principles. While they may be, as we talked about in the previous section about, the stones kind of being representational of something, what are these representation of? They're of principles, of nuclei, of seeds, similar vessels upon which they ride. Well, what are the similar vessels in this age? So, what is the fire? What is the light that he's speaking about in our age? So I think that's really the important. Otherwise you just reduce it to a history book, and what you're really saying is then the verse nor anything fresh or dry, but it isn't a clear record, really isn't accurate. Because if the speech is truly from an absolute source of existence, then his knowledge must be absolute, and the way in which he speaks must be absolute with respect to that absolute knowledge. So that's what I generally took away. I'm sure you'll have other points to make.
Thank you, Suhail. Go ahead, Birkan.
If someone else is...
No.
Okay. While Suhail was speaking, I just realized something. I'm not sure, of course, if this is true, but he says sometimes the seeds, sometimes nuclei, sometimes the summary, sometimes the principles, sometimes the signs, and so on. It seems like, the author suggesting that Quran is something alive. Like you take it as a seed and it grows. Because when you say seed, that you expect something to come, like a tree will come out of it. So whatever you get from Quran, it will be the seed of something for you. So it's not just something. It's not something that you read and it's done. But it will live in you, and it will become a tree. And he says sometimes principles. I guess he's suggesting that whatever you read in Quran, you can use it as a principle to apply on your life. So it doesn't stay there, but it gives you a methodology, it gives you a principle, so that you can interpret your life. Or sometimes signs. So again, it means like whatever you read in Quran, you shouldn't take it as it is, but you should infer something out of it. It will be signed to something. So all these together reminds me that the speech in the Quran is something alive. It lives with you. So it transforms you, or it's being transformed in you as you live.
Yes, that's a timely, good reminder. And it's also what you've said, as far as I understand, aligns with what Suhail said. Suhail, I see your raise up. Would you like to say something?
Yeah, just one other thing. It's interesting because that paragraph in and of itself is a principle or a seed. So it's kind of really the seed for Nursi's writings, I think, in that he makes it. I mean, he's talking about the railway, particularly. I mean, and obviously the airplane. But I mean, these things were new for him in that regard, and now, maybe when he was alive, I think he died before, space shuttles are going into a different mode of transportation and go into space. But he's speaking from his using his own principles that he derives from the Quran. He's stating what those principles are and saying this is how I understand or how I read the Quran, how I find it applicable. So that's what I found interesting.
Thank you, Suhail. Anyone else wants to say something?
Sure. The question seemed a little bit interesting to me. Now I am imagining a person raising such a question, saying that where in Quran it talks about a Tesla electric car, for example. If a question like this comes to me, I would say, are you guys crazy? Let's talk about belief matters, this and that. I mean, why are you seeking for Tesla inside the Quran? I mean, I guess my response would be something like that. But Nursi's not doing this. Instead, he is as if using it as an opportunity. This might be one way to take it. Or he seriously took it as a serious question. I mean, instead of saying that, busy yourself with something more useful, instead of seeking for Tesla car inside the Quran, something more useful, more valuable. I don't know, just this part of it was a little bit interesting for me. Because apparently he's going to dive into a very deep topic again, but
and he is taking this as the introduction, the verse saying that everything is written in Quran. So I guess my first impression is he's just making use of this as a leverage. So just this question as a leverage for making a big point. Otherwise, the question itself, because showing that, let's say if I prove that Quran mentions electric cars 14 centuries ago, yeah, it's a miracle, but among several deep miracles of Quran, this would be just even the tiniest part of it. So you would say there are a lot of other stuff that we can show it to you. Why bother yourself with this tiny debatable things? But this being said, I guess there's also this other part. For many people, this is a very serious part of proof of truthfulness of Quran. So as if Nursi is making use of this aspect of man, saying that already there are a lot of people which would be asking this question because of their level of understanding, their level of interest. But let's make use of it, open up a door, but carry on the discussion, just warming it up with this initial question, but carry the topic to real matters of belief, which will take us to deep ways of understanding what Quran's verses are saying or how to read them.
Go ahead.
I guess this is an important point because, as far as I see, I haven't read as much as some other people, but I guess Nursi always does this. Like he respects the people's situation. So if somebody comes and asks us a question, even the question is something like, as a person, Birkan would say, oh, this is stupid, like, do not waste your time with such questions. No, he says, okay, if this is your question, I will analyze your situation, why you are asking this question. I will try to understand this and then give you something that you can benefit. So it doesn't matter what question you're asking, whether it sounds silly or not, I will respect you. I will try to understand your situation and then give you something you can benefit. I guess this is really important, especially for me, maybe I'm missing this talent, let's say, taking people seriously, trying to understand them. This is something probably I should do more. And other than that, also the part that it's interesting that you directly mentioned proving Quran. Like when we talk about such stuff like electricity was mentioned in Quran or space shuttles were mentioned in the Quran, which proves the Quran, it's miracle. But I guess there is also another aspect of it. We can take it as like whatever you have in your life, whether it is electricity, space shuttles, the camels, the birds, doesn't matter. It is part of the quote-unquote religion. So when you look at the space shuttle, you should go back to Quran and try to understand space shuttle from the lens of Quran. Because it is also not missed in Quran. So if you want to understand birds, again, put the glass of the Quran and then understand the birds. Because birds also were not missed in Quran. It is there in Quran. Maybe not as a biological explanation, but if you put the glass of the Quran and look at the birds, it will speak to you. And then if you look at the space shuttles, it will speak to you. Electricity, yes, same. What about rocks? Yes, the same. So there is nothing in the creation which you cannot read with the glass of the Quran. Everything can be read. So I guess we can also take it from that perspective. Since Emin is not here, you are the moderator, Yusuf.
Any other comments, questions? Let's go ahead, Suhail.
I'm curious because a lot of Muslim scientists during what was called the golden age of Islam, when Europe was in the dark ages, and they made all these discoveries. I always wondered, did they, and to me, I think they did. I think they would look at principles mentioned in the Quran to make an analysis of what they were experiencing in the universe. Whether they came to the right or wrong conclusion, to me, is not really relevant, but they tried to address principles that they found in the Quran and see, could they understand the universe within those principles. I don't know if that's the right way or the wrong way to do it, but I think, I have a feeling that's, like, for example, if you're living in like the earliest 20th century or before the industrial age, before the railway, and you read the verse, and we have created for them similar vessels in which they ride. Like, does your imagination take you to other places, other possibilities in terms of what are other means of transportation? And to me, I think that's kind of what inspired a lot of Muslim scientists in history, in that they always, I could be just, speculating, but I don't see any other reason why they make a lot of these discoveries unless they look to the Quran to see the world in terms of, certain principles. Now, whether they use that from a belief perspective, that might be something else. But I think that what they thought that the Quran is the word of God, without question. So if he is speaking about some sort of something in the universe, then do we see the universe in that way? And if we don't, how do we get there?
Okay, thank you, Suhail. Any more comments?
It's just related to what Suhail said. I guess we don't have to go back to these Muslim scientists or what he said, golden age of the Muslim science. I guess the opposite, which is, a science or studying the creation with the purpose of just studying the creation, is something very recent, actually. Like when you look at the writings of the other scientists as well, they don't have to be Muslim. You see that, like, the science for them, it was just a tool to understand the creator, like the actions of the creator. So they wouldn't talk about, the separation between, what happens in the natural world and what happens, all these supernatural the powers and so on. All they were doing is trying to understand what's going on around them. And the method, as they call as science, was just a method for them. Like, at least most of them, like the famous ones, let's say, the big thinkers, when you read their text, you realize that most of the things that we're doing were based on an idea of a creator. They would say it even explicitly. Like, for instance, I was very surprised when I read this, which, like, the names doesn't matter, so I will not give the name, but the one who considered as the father of the modern philosophy, like one argument he's writing, he says, when you let objects move by themselves, like when you do not interfere them, they move on a straight path. Why? Because everything created in a, how would you say, like unbended, the straight way. Like everything is created perfectly, and for him, the perfection was a straight line. Doesn't matter, true or not. But that was his starting point. Like, he's trying to understand the action of the creator. And to understand this, if he is able to use science to understand this, he would use science. If he would use the philosophy, he would use philosophy. So this separation between, doing science just for the sake of science or for the sake of refuting the religion or whatever is something very recent. Like, we don't have to go back to golden age of the Islam. As a human being, humans, at least the ones who brave enough to think, they were always honest enough that there is a creator and this is what I'm doing. I'm trying to understand his actions.
Thank you. Any comment? You look like you want to say something.
Yeah. The word book. Yeah, it's everything in the book. Or that has double face of meaning. One is the Quran, the speech of the Creator. The other side is also universe is a book.
Mm.
So action of the Creator, speech of the Creator. So they must correlate speech and action. So rather than reading these kind of verses and trying to understand that what they are referring to, for example, some people did that some scholars, including Nursi himself, said that this verse mentions about, for example, here the train, locomotive, or electricity. But this is the early 20th century, first half of the 20th century, wonder of the people, or wonder of the technological development, which is one side of the book, which is the universe. So whatever we see in the action in the universe created, we must see the aspect of this matter as far as the purposes of the Quran is concerned, related to it. It is not a reduction saying that this verse, the verses, the text narrated, means train or electricity only. Today, train, maybe 20th century train, 21st century spacecraft. Well, doesn't matter. But when you see the spacecraft, it is in the book, because no one can make anything without obeying and following and therefore recovering what is in the book of action. They cannot make anything. It means it is already in the book, but people, human beings, are discovering what is already in the book of the creation. It means universe. So if whatever is found, one day it may be electricity, tomorrow something else. I don't know. For example, microwaves, or what ways? A magnetic field, for example. I don't know whatever they are. I don't know. I'm not a physicist. Whatever you found, you have to go back and in the speech understand the purpose of the existence of this object. But the purpose of as the last sentence of the paragraph Suhail read,
according to need,
yeah,
in a manner suitable to the purposes of the Quran.
Yeah, purposes of the Quran. Purposes of the Quran are not say that, look, although you discovered the train or locomotive, now I already knew it. It doesn't mean that. The purpose of the Quran is to teach that whatever you discover, you discovering by uncovering what is already in the creation and applying it to satisfy your need. And For example, when you eat something prepared, the best example is fruit. Prepared already, you read it, you eat it ready. So it is more like for human beings saying that this is the grace of the Creator, prepared it for me. How about when you speak to your friend or, I don't know, relative on the phone without going all the way to the other side of the world, communicating with this person? Isn't that an obvious grace of the Creator? The same thing. It is because what you did, you found the order of making the, let's say, telephone, speaking in the far, and the beyond your physical capacity. It is in the book, and there is a purpose for you. So rather than reading the Quran and trying to understand what it refers to, you can find what it refers to according to your questioning. If you are questioning that, now there is on one side the book creation, the other side the book which contains the speech. What I found here, whether it is in the book so that I will benefit from it. Now, speaking practically, I will benefit from the telephone, as a grace of the Creator, because it is the discovery of the creation in the action form. Tomorrow they can find something else. That doesn't matter. You can still refer it, whatever you find in the universe, already existing, the principles are already existing there. No one is bringing any law, any principle, any order. Everybody is discovering or discovering from the already existing principles of act of creation. So you have to go back to the purpose of the Quran speech, which said, okay, this is my grace to you. I prepared it for you. So you discover it now, worked for it, and you have to thank me. You have to understand that how wonderful work I have performed in front of you. You are discovering layers of hidden principles in the act of creation. So you are discovering more and more aware of the capacity of the infinite knowledge. This is principle. But Nursi applies it to its own time, to the wonder of the people. So now, I can ask now, is television mentioned in the Quran? Yeah, must be. Huh? Not for the sake of television, but television is what I discovered within the already existing order of the universe. So I have to go back in order to fulfill the purpose of the Quran, which is to teach people who their owner is, who their Lord is, and who they belong to, so that they will identify their existence accordingly. So today is something else, tomorrow another thing, doesn't matter. Now internet, for example, television is the wonder of the people in my age. Now no one wonders what, but internet and Google searching. Now you can ask the same question, but all discoveries, they call it scientific discoveries. It was human effort to find out what is already in the order. It's a human effort that is called scientific discoveries. That is correct. What they are doing is absolutely right. They are discovering what is already in the universe. So they have to go back to analyze what they have discovered and utilize it in order to fulfill the purpose of existence of that particular thing that they discover. And this purpose is mentioned in the speech of the Creator. So nothing can miss it from the content of the speech of the Creator. We can generalize it. Thank you.
Thank you. To me, it feels like the Quran, with its guidance or message, provides the missing component in man's endeavor. And that missing component you described as in summary, like purpose, I want to say meaning. So it fulfills what humans need the most, a meaning, a purpose, or a motivation, or in general, Quran, with these verses, I think, helps me put my, let's call it scientific endeavor or discovery into a context. Otherwise, deep down, I feel that, okay, I've discovered, or I think the word you were looking for, uncover. Uncovering layer by layer. So I'm uncovering some hidden gem or treasure in already existing order, and what happens? What happens later?
Yeah. What is the ultimate purpose?
What's the ultimate purpose? Because all these people that discovered electricity, they're all gone, disappeared, vanished. Where are they right now? Or, for example, I am working on an airplane. I'm going to see the airplane flying for a couple of years. Either then at some point, everybody will forget about me. Or it's not like I'm going to experience the joy of designing an airplane forever. So that secular or worldly or earthly endeavor itself is not satisfactory. And the Quran tells me what you've been doing is great. It's almost like the purpose of your existence. You have all embroidered, with various human qualities to discover, and with creative thoughts. You are doing something great. But without putting that into the context of your existence as a human being with a creator, your purpose is to get to know him, etc., that activity becomes almost like futile because it's transient. You didn't make any effort to transform that discovery into something eternal that will satisfy all of your human qualities. So that's what I mean by putting into context. So you keep doing what you're doing. You're a biologist. You keep studying the DNA or whatever that may be. I am an engineer. I keep working on my projects. But while I am doing it, I take heed in the guidance of the Quran such that I kind of put my activity in a context such that, oh man, I am uncovering my creator's, what was the word? The order or treasures. Because this is very interesting to me. To me, in the first 2 pages, that's the most like a striking point to me. Human beings are created in or given qualities in a way that they can discover like as impactful as an electricity or train or a form of transportation. What does that mean? Up until the humans discovered or uncovered the order that leads to electricity, there wasn't electricity. The names manifested on the electricity did not exist up until the human beings actually began to uncover those layers. So I find that very interesting, to be honest. And I find that very central. It actually helps me put all these, occupations that we may have into a very meaningful and satisfactory context. And that's why Quran encourages me to keep doing what I was doing even before I was introduced to this Quranic message, but in a whole new context that is satisfactory as far as your human expectations are concerned. And that is what the Brother Ali, if I were to rephrase what Brother Ali said, is just to get to know him, to recognize him, or acknowledge your creator. Otherwise, it's like turning a blind eye to, it's like an elephant in the room situation. You are uncovering something that already exists. It means somebody or some source must have put it or hidden it in the existence, hidden in quotations, obviously metaphorically speaking, but also hidden. Up until humans discovered electricity was hidden, but it's not like it was non-existent. It was just hidden. We didn't create it. Humans didn't create it. That's what I mean by elephant in the room. It's already there. I mean, if it already exists, it means there must be a source who put it in this universe. And elephant in the room is an analogy for not acknowledging the creator. It's already there, it's in the room, but you're not acknowledging it. And the Quran is exactly at that point kind of shakes me or mercifully reminds me, just remember your ontological existential position. What is it that you're really doing? What is it that you thought that you created or you discovered? Is it you created it, or it was already hidden and you just uncovered it for a purpose? Did you want to say something? Anyone from online participants? Go ahead, Suhail.
Not to change the subject, but I find it interesting his footnote when he says in the verse that you read, in the loaded ark, and we have created for them similar vessels on which they ride. This sentence indicates that the railway has taken the world of Islam prisoner. The unbelievers defeated Islam with it, which I think points to what everyone has said so far is, from what lens do you see or understand these sort of discoveries? Do you see them really, if you have sort of I guess very, I don't even know if atheistic worldview, but even sort of materialistic worldview, do you see these discoveries as a means to, empower oneself, in a sense, like take oneself as the, Lord, as the Lord of those things? Like I've discovered this, let's say this means of transportation, or in his case, the railway, and now I'm going to exert power because it belongs to me. I made it. I created it. That's what language people generally use. And I'm going to do with it what I will because it belongs to me. And so in that sense, that's a sort of misuse of what you are, uncovering in this world from the principles of existence and the way in which things are given existence. And in another way, the unbelievers defeated Islam with it, which is, I find it interesting that he says that, because the verse mentions, a principle about, vessels upon which they ride, means of transportation. But that same principle is used by people who deny the truth to defeat Islam with it, which I find very curious, in that it's as if, I don't know what Nursi is exactly thinking, but it's as if to say, are you, like, is being a believer just being content with not sort of discovering, or, just kind of sitting back and relaxing? Or are you intent to discover, as you said, for the purpose of knowing who the creator must be? Because, it's well known, during his age that, the Muslim society was at least sort of technologically, centuries behind the Western world. And as he said, they were defeated with it. They were occupied and colonized by it, by the same principle that the Quran mentions, which that to me I find interesting.
Thank you, Suhail. Go ahead, please.
Anyone else?
No, there's
Again, while Suhail was speaking, the verse he just read and the footnote, is it no. In the loaded ark, and we have created for them similar vessels on which they ride. The footnote is for that one, but also the previous one, I guess it's also, according to Nursi, alludes to the railway. The woe to the makers of the pit of fire, and the other verses. The part, the way it ends, it's really interesting. But he says, in Quran, the Creator says, and they ill-treated them for no other reason than that they believed in God, the Mighty, the one to whom all praise is due. The one to whom all praise is due. I guess this also goes back to what Brother Ali said, like when you discover something, you should realize that the creator of this thing is the God, so that you should praise him instead of yourself. You should realize that it is given to you. And I guess with this verse is saying that these unbelievers, they discovered this railway, but they didn't give the praise to the God. And then it's interesting, Nursi says Islam was, unbelievers defeated Islam with it. I guess this is one part which is possibly historical, like how railway was used in his time to defeat the Islamic world. But I guess we can also maybe, I'm just thinking a lot, we can also think it as the way, we can take it in another way. Like when we look at today, the Islamic world. So what we do, we say, do you know what all these superpowers have these planes, have these war machines, military? We should also have that. We should also use railway, I mean, the railway in our time, to attack them or defend ourselves. We should also produce such weapons. I guess this is the part of the defeat. Like we are being defeated with their attitudes. They didn't praise God, the Creator, when they discovered these weapons or vessels, and they taught us how to become an unbeliever. They said, you see, I made a railway, the vessel, and I'm taking the praise for myself. Do it, do the same thing. You also do the same thing. Try to discover or try to make another invention, another vessel, so that you will attack me and take the praise for it. So I guess this is another way of seeing that how Islam was defeated with this mindset. We should also do it. We should also create things. We should also take praise for ourselves, just like they did.
And that's a very good point. And just to add to that, my takeaway from that footnote is it's self-criticism. What I mean by he's using that historical incident or event, or it's not even event, fact, or whatever happened throughout decades, as a means to make a point. And the point is, we haven't started reading, but the point is, if you remember, I would like to invite everyone to the context of the text we are reading. That is the miraculous of the prophets. And we're going to see, perhaps starting from next week, how the prophetic occupations or discoveries or miracles, encourage human beings, men, to do the same or follow in their path to uncover the hidden treasures of the Creator. I think what I mean by self-criticism is, it's like the criticism is for neglecting this duty, quote unquote, of the human being. And duty meaning uncovering creators, manifestations hidden in this universe. Not in the sense of making war machines to compete on the same secular platform. That's obviously, it's very clear to me that it is wrong. But in the Quranic context, Islamic world, or Islam, meaning all these Muslim people in its own geography, all these people neglected to study the universe in connection with the Quran. So that is the self-criticism I take. If you do not do it within the context of the Quran, your human reality, you see someone else is doing it for their own purposes. Because it doesn't matter what your belief or perspective is. That hidden treasure will be uncovered in one way or another. That is also the order anyways. But if your intentions are to claim ownership of your discovery and sell, or establish superiority over other peoples, then of course that's completely against your human reality and the teachings of the Quran, etc., etc. But I think the Quran is inviting us, or Nursi, inviting us to focus on something completely new or novel. It's novel, meaning novel for me personally in my own age, meaning uncover those hidden treasures with this Quranic purpose in mind. That is your duty as a human being, or if you want to make it sound a little more religious, as a Muslim person, like Muslim is a lowercase m. So that I find it very interesting, actually. So that's what I said. That's what I took away from this footnote, that unbelievers defeated Islam with it. That's like existentially speaking, that's the whole point of human being. Otherwise, if the point is just to repeatedly praise the Creator, then there wouldn't be any need for human beings. Angels, I'm jumping into conclusion. How do you know angels exist? That's a separate discussion. But there wouldn't be need for the human species. So we are given all these various qualities to discover these hidden treasures within the existence. If I'm not doing it in order to get to know my Creator, someone else will do it, and they're going to defeat you with it. That's my take. Obviously, it doesn't invalidate what you said, just a different perspective. So, go ahead. No? Okay.
So one part I'm a little reluctant to accept is that, so for instance, he says in Quran, and we have created for them similar vessels on which they ride. So he doesn't say, and we created other vessels for believers or for Muslims, or for this group of people. So I guess from a belief perspective, it doesn't matter who discovers the railway, or it doesn't matter who discovers the electricity, or it doesn't matter how they use it. They discover it, they use it for their own purpose to claim ownership on something. They destroy something. I guess this is not the defeat part. The defeat part is when they do that, and when they claim ownership on that, and they take the praise on that, we look at them and say, I look at them and say, you see, they are way above my head, or way, ileri?
Beyond. Advanced.
Yeah, they are much more advanced than me. So I guess because when you say that, when you look at the situation from this perspective, you already accept that praise should go for them. I guess what I should do is, no matter who discovers the electricity, I look at that and say, Alhamdulillah. Giving the praise to God. What kind of creation He's giving me? And once you do that, this is your duty already. Like your duty is not becoming an advanced civilization on the earth. Your duty is not to the first invent the spacecraft before some other unbeliever nation do. Who cares who invents the spacecraft? As long as you look at the spacecraft and you know your creator with it, you already done your duty. So this reminds me this story about the Shaitan. When he says, give me time, I will take them out of the way, like I will defeat them, quote unquote. He doesn't say that I will go to the earth and live a better life than to your believers and show them that unbelieving is much better and so on. He said, no, I will take them out of the way. It doesn't matter they are advanced or not advanced. The point is whether you are on the path or not. And I guess I understand what you say. I agree that you should strive for discovering things. You should strive for, understanding the actions of the Creator for your own sake. But I guess defeat is not coming from that our being unable to discover things before other nations do.
I'll argue otherwise, but not in the. Suhail, I'll give you the microphone in a few minutes, but not in the context in which you are describing. I agree with you. There's no point in competing with others, and what is others anyways? I'm not talking from that point of view. I'm Muslim, or we need to get better at space missions, etc. That's obviously out of scope. My point is, two words might help express my thoughts, is the opportunity cost. So defeat is, we are missing, I am missing, I don't even know who we is. I am missing opportunity to get to know my Creator in a substantiated, powerful, strong, and convincing way. That is, although what you said is a defeat, to me, this understanding of defeat is more relevant personally. And I'm not talking about war machines, spacecraft, aircrafts, and electricity. I'm talking about the wireless microphone box that you developed. I'm talking about a book that I've been waiting on writing. I'm talking about whatever the situation may be. So uncovering, in principle, uncovering the hidden gems in existence. Obviously, our minds go to the more impactful examples, at least at the first stage, but everything that could be. For example, you have a burning spot on your carpet, and you've been thinking about trying to find a means to correct it. As you are doing it, you are uncovering the hidden gems, hidden treasures, meaning the manifestations of your Creator. So obviously, what I'm doing may not be appropriate for everyone, but I'm generalizing the defeat part. Because that's how I can relate the defeat to myself. Although the defeat, the interpretation of your defeat, that you pointed out, I also agree with it. It just, to me, this feels a little bit more important to me because I can relate to it, because that's what I do every day. I find the shortest path to work, for example. I find the best, the car that's most fuel efficient, etc., etc. There are so many examples in our lives. And the Quran tells me, just when you are doing those, or in other words, perform those activities with this consciousness. Because the religious understanding, especially in Nurse's time, is perhaps still the same. You just, sit together, do some activities, rituals, and call it a day. I think that's what Nursi is doing here, is criticizing that, or reminding the people that, obviously, there are various ways to remember your Creator. That's not invalidating it, but one way, and perhaps it's very central to many people, to me personally, is to keep uncovering the layers of existence. Go ahead, Suhail. Yes, go ahead, Suhail. It's your turn.
Yes. Just to go with what you're saying, I would have to disagree with Berkan respectfully on this, in that you can't, just coming from a scientific field, you can't, as you said, I can't accept the fact that, oh, I'm ill. Look at how I'm made, that I am, impotent. Have a power. I'm powerless. I'm contingent upon the creator of the whole universe. I can't sustain myself. That to me is inadequate. And the reason being why, in one sense, it looks like defeat to me, because if you understand science today, there's a reason scientific discourse is centered around atheism and materialism, because atheists and materialists are the leading scientists of the world. So they can dictate and craft the discourse around that. And I'm not saying that you have to make some great discovery or whatever. And I think that I get from Nursi is that if you aren't trying to discover what is taking place in the world, somebody else will, and then presenting it from the perspective of, look how the order of man, of how the creator, his act of creation is, and who are you showing praise to? If you don't do that, somebody else will do it for you, and they're going to use that against you, and they'll cover up the truth. As Berkan said, I don't accept that, religion today or what you believe in is just you sitting down and saying, oh, somebody else is discovering something, and look how great that is. Glory be to the creator. That to me is just, letting somebody else do the work for you, and then them dictating the discourse and shifting the paradigm for everybody. That's why atheism is so prevalent today, is because the scientists that are doing science are atheists and materialists. It's not a coincidence.
Thank you, Suhail. Go ahead, Brother Ali.
I think this kind of interpretations of Nursi has a historical background. After the First World War, almost most of the geography of the Muslim world, so-called Muslim world, was under colonialization of this power of technologically advanced people. So they rejected the Muslim community because of the complex, inferiority complex, that they are defeated. Whatever they used in order to defeat them physically, they try to disdain them, saying that these are, in Turkish I would use it, Yaurica. It means unbelievers' inventions. Now, Nursi is trying to give them a sort of spiritual power or support, enhance their understanding, their emotions, that they shouldn't really reject this kind of things, because these are, earlier on, somebody said here, it was very interesting phrase for me. These are your property as a believer, because what they don't invent, they uncover. Now, nowadays, for example, so what they uncover the work of the one you believed in as the creator of that thing. So that is your property. Don't reject them. So Nursi, of course, speaking to the general public, usually understands only palpable, objectionable, how do you say, objectified,
Tangible, touchable.
tangible, objectified form. For example, locomotive, for example, electricity. Yeah. For example, or now internet, for example, speaks to them within their own capacity and gives them the example. So this example changes every century, now every decade, as you said. Every decade, these examples are changing. So new things are discovered. In order to encourage them or support their psychological defeatedness, it is very bad. It is, if someone feels that I'm defeated psychologically, he really feels depressed. So to say, the Nursi wants to give them the option that, look, these are your property, don't worry, because these are nothing but the act of your creator. That's very clear. So you can relate everything which is found in the creation, because no one in the world can bring into the surface or this uncover, which is not in the universe, already in the order of the universe. No one can do that. So whatever is discovered in the universe, it is your property because it is the property of the one you put your trust in. So don't feel dismayed or don't feel the defeatedness. For example, the language, if you really carefully follow those people who study this in the science field, they say, look, you don't agree with us, but science works. And you use and utilize my production. They were criticizing some people that they criticized the modern technology, let's call it, but they used Facebook-like connection, how do you say? They communicate through social media. They said, look, they criticize us with what we have invented. So they're obviously they are in contradiction. But you point out very well that this is, Nursi says, praise is due to your creator in everything that they discovered in his action. So science works. Then where said, yes, science works. Of course it does. Because my creator doesn't create anything without any wisdom and purpose. So you discovered this. I'm not going into who should do it first. You discovered this, but thank you. You made me realize that the knowledge of my creator is really limitless. You go deeper and deeper. For example, they study, especially they study the sand now. They go deeper and deeper and deeper, and it is unimaginable. For example, the codes in the DNA, 2.1 billion in one DNA. Which knowledge that can encompass this program? For the moment, 2.1 billion. Maybe tomorrow, what will we discover? So we understand that we shouldn't feel defeated. Mm-hmm. This is our property, whether they discover it or a person with a Muslim name, Ahmed, Muhammad, something like that, discovered it, regardless, because there is no invention. Yeah. Invention is something which did not exist before, they gave existence to it anew, their body. So there's nothing invention, but only discovery. That's why this materialist scientists, they don't say that we discovered what they say, we invented, we found out, but they don't say that we found out what is already in existence. They don't say, never say. No, what's already in the universe, never say. But what we are producing, what we are introducing to the world, you benefit from it. Yeah, so you have to be thankful to it. Suhail said, I think somebody said, but it was Suhail, as far as I remember. Then they bring the discoveries, their discoveries, together with their worldview. And they say that this is science will explain everything. But everything means really what is already existent in the universe. And this is the act of the Creator that the Quran refers to. There's no conflict, but there is a peace between what is found and what the Quran says. The Quran says, as the word of God, I am the Lord, owner, creator, however you interpret it, of the universe, and this is my property. You work. Go. Find out which kind of actions I displayed for you so that you will be more and more satisfied with my qualities that they have no end. So it is a kind of encouragement to me in the historical context, but you can apply it now today's reality, because we cannot go out of the universe and find out something out of the universe and bring into the universe. No one can do that. So whatever is discovered, this is my work. My property. It means this is the property of my Creator. So if you don't believe in the Creator, it's not your property. You are a liar. You have to declare the quality of the Creator of what you have already discovered, uncovered, rather than saying that you have to thank me. I think somebody mentioned that. You have to thank me because they claim that, look, I am superior to you and I provided all things to you. You have to thank me. And the Quran says, no, you have to thank the Creator. You are just benefiting from what already has been created. But it's understandable. Of course, we should never, we have to be very careful. This verse refers to locomotive. No, it is worse. But locomotive is included in the content of the verse. That's why these words are very important here. They are sometimes the signs, but the same principles in the form of not science, sign, pointing to something in a hinting way. It means, or are found either explicitly or implicitly or elusively or vaguely or as a reminder. Now, explicitly possible, for example. Okay, I think it is understood.
Yeah,
the text is understood.
To wrap up in my own words, so it sticks in my mind. I think there are two takeaways, I will say. One is that these verses and Nursi helps us how to see the technological advancements and scientific discoveries in the name of their creator. Obviously, I know this is very summary-like statement, but that's the intention anyways. And another takeaway is that Nursi encourages a lot. In fact, the Quran, we are going to see, not today, but I think the whole chapter is that the Quran encourages human being, to keep digging and uncovering the layers that, or in other words, for example, there's a certain, you talked about the DNA. They said uncovered there are 2.1 billion codes. Just take it to the next step. Don't shy away from that scientific discovery just because it came attached with a certain worldview. I think keyword for me to summarize all these discussions is don't shy away from scientific discoveries, because like you said, Brother Ali, that's your property. So not shying away is a keyword that I would like to remember after this discussion. There are no comments at this point. I just want to read what Faraz said. Faraz, if you want to chime in anytime, please stop me. The discussion so far reminded me of a poet who said, "From the unseen come to me the things that I think about and know. The sound of the scratch that a pencil makes as I write on paper is the voice of an angel." Oh, that's beautiful. I'll read that again. From the unseen come to me the things that I think about and know. The sound of the scratch that a pencil makes as I write on paper is the voice of an angel. Now Faraz's comment. Oh, Faraz said this is original in Urdu. This is my rough translation. Thank you. It means that knowledge of the Creator exists and is sent to me as I sit to write. A metaphor for all endeavor one makes to know something. I think this is a beautiful summary or like a concise way of describing what has been discussed.
Could you
Read again?
yeah, the second part?
The Faraz's part?
Yes, Faraz's part.
It means that knowledge of the Creator exists and it is sent to me as I, quote unquote, sit to write. Because the example, sit to write.
Okay, okay.
A metaphor, it's just a metaphor for all the man's endeavor. Thank you, Faraz. Okay, I'll just switch to other view, see if there is, okay, there's no one raising their hands. Anyone, in the room who wants to say something? Birkan?
So, Yusuf, the example we sometimes use, the giving hand is superior to the receiving hand. Is it from Hadith, right? Okay, just to be sure. So this Hadith is, I will kind of like support what Suhail said, which was in disagreement with me. So I'm supporting his idea.
You're contradicting with yourself.
Yes. So I guess also together with what Emin said, like, yes, there is one layer of understanding that whoever discovers things or whomever, whoever shows me something, I can always take it to understand my Creator. I can praise it. I can give the praise to my Creator. This is possible, and this is what I should do. But at the same time, like when I receive charity, I understand the sustainer. Like I receive charity, and I see the name sustainer there. I know about my Creator. But maybe I know more about my Creator when I give the charity. Like when I give the charity, I know the sustainer, let's say, slightly better than when I receive the charity. Because from the first hand, I know that it's not me giving this sustenance to this guy. And you know that from the first hand. There's the name sustainer, it's kind of flowing in you when you do this through you, when you do the charity. I guess we can take it the same way, like you can look at a discovery and give the praise to the Creator, but at the same time, this is one way of doing it, but next, you can also contribute to the discovery itself, like be part of the discovery, so that the name, the all-wise, flows through you. You know it from the first hand. Instead of just benefiting from others, you know it from the first hand. Just, I don't know, the discussion reminded me the hadith. Yeah.
Thank you, Birkan. Okay. So we have 20 more minutes left. We could either start reading the introduction, perhaps a paragraph or two, or get more, maybe listen to your comments for the points discussed so far. Let me check the computer to see if there's any comments. Okay. Oh, Faraz, go ahead.
So yeah, very briefly, I'm not saying this that other people didn't say this, just to emphasize for myself, because I'm not a scientist. I think so much knowledge surrounds me, and so many things, from the, so much knowledge is so widely and easily accessible, I feel. And it is observable at work, from, even if I didn't know the details, it seems to me that it is so clear that there is a mind at work, and there's a will at work, and there is a knowledge at work in the sun, coming out, being brought out, I should say, or the night being made, or the flower coming out of or a fruit. Even that what we might consider illiterate in any specialized in the details. I just wanted to say that it, at the very average level, without any formal education, without going to college or university, there is plenty of knowledge there. So we need not lose heart. And on the one hand, what you have said, I agree with it, the endeavor and the not ignoring, certainly, but also to my non-scientist brothers and sisters, I say there is so much around us, knowledge and manifest, and we just need to pay attention, and there is much nourishment to be gained from what is already known, and inshallah the scientists will discover more for us, but there is a mind at work everything I look around, and so there is that's all I wanted to say, just to hopefully the point was clear.
Thank you, Faraz. Yeah, I think that's that I find your emphasis important, and the core understanding or core point that has been made so far is applicable to every endeavor, as you put it, not just science and technology, and it's everything. Obviously, it's the word everything doesn't explain anything, but like you said, it could be focusing on the poem you've been meaning to write for years. It could be admiring the sunset. It could be speaking with your partner. It could be seeking, just having good time with your friends. It doesn't really have to be quote unquote advanced technology like a spacecraft. Obviously, there are degrees to creation, and there are degrees to human endeavors. I think it's important to re-emphasize this. And whatever that my level may be, the core methodology should be applicable. And I think it is applicable. It's just that some of us are scientists, some of us are just, simple engineers, some of them are, wise, scholars. It's a joke. So, yeah, go ahead, Sahey.
To touch on what Faraz said, to me, I don't think you can't dissociate discovery from knowing the creator, because how you know him is through discovery of creation, or what takes place in the creation. Now, as he said, it doesn't have to. I'm not saying it has to be, as he brought up. He rightfully brought up. It doesn't have to be some sort of scientific, quote unquote, scientific discovery of the world. I mean, whether that's sort of art, literature, or any sort of the social sciences, or arts. But I just can't. To me, it's not acceptable that I just sit back and let somebody else do it for me, because I'm given the quality to not only to do it, but then to present it in a sort of a belief perspective. And to me, that is, as I take it as a human being, like what one's duty is. Because then otherwise, I mean, as Dr. Ali said, I mean, he has a historical reason for saying this. There's a reason why, after World War I and, colonization and occupation and the collapse of the Ottoman Empire, and why atheism is rampant. I don't need to tell you that. I mean, all Turkish people know that, but it happened because, they felt inferior towards Western powers in terms of how they view their society. And to me, that's a result of Muslim civilization becoming sort of apathetic and lazy with regards to discovery about the universe and who the creator must be. And that's what happened after that. And to me, Muslim society has suffered ever since then. And not just Muslims, in society, human beings as a whole, because once you have a sort of a dangerous idea take hold within human psyche, this idea that the world exists for itself and whoever discovers something, it belongs to them. And then you have this idea, as Nursi says, might makes right. Then that's the kind of world you have then. And that's how human beings then begin to develop and how they see the world. And that to me is no coincidence. So and I agree with I say for us, it doesn't have to be in science, it could be in anything for that matter. And that sort of worldview, that sort of nihilistic or atheistic worldview permeates into all those other branches of sort of discovery and knowledge as well.
Thank you, Suhail. Yusuf, go ahead, please.
And as we are entering into the next stage of the text, one thing attracted my attention. Nursi is splitting this sort of verses or approaching verses in this way into two categories, and saying that one of them is in the form of historical events, the other one is miracles of prophets. He didn't take miracles of prophets as historical events, which very well might have been done as well. So apparently he wants to emphasize something, and also he puts it in the first sort, saying that I'm going to put more emphasis on that. It's actually coming prior to the second one, although in this paragraph, the previous paragraph, he said that many people are more busy with the second one. The first one is seemingly being underemphasized, so he's putting it to the first, and now he's going to keep discussing this, which we will see. But I guess there is an element of prophethood that he is going to bring up, which sort of trying to take it also to our day-to-day life here and now. It's going to be miracles of prophets, but he's going to make us look at it from a very different perspective, so that all the classification and all the setup of the text so far is, I guess, leading us towards that direction. So just to underline the prophet in there.
Yeah, that's a timely reminder. Yeah, this whole chapter that we are reading today is about prophet and the miracles of the prophets. So is everyone okay for me to begin reading the introduction, or any objections or other suggestions?
I guess it's already divided into parts, like it gives one example from Quran, and then explains, and then another example, and then explains, right? So I guess we can just read the first one.
Okay, let me read it, inshallah. Introduction. Before the introduction, let me reread the preceding statement as a reminder. As for the first sort, it indicates them in the form of the miracles of the prophets, and we shall mention some of these by way of example. Introduction. The all-wise Quran sends the prophets to man's communities as leaders and vanguards of spiritual and moral progress. Similarly, it gives all of them a number of wonders and makes them the masters and foremen in regard to mankind's material progress, and commands man to follow them absolutely. Thus, just as by speaking of the spiritual and moral perfections of the prophets, it is encouraging people to benefit from them. I think it refers to Quran here. Quran is encouraging people to benefit from the prophets.
Quran says,
No?
it's the Quran's mentioning of the miracles of the prophets first.
And encouraging people to benefit from their moral perfections and spiritual perfections
Okay.
of prophets.
No. Okay.
Okay, go ahead.
It says, just as by speaking of the spiritual and moral perfections of the prophets, just like spiritual and moral perfections, it is encouraging people benefit from them. So too, in discussing their miracles, it is inferring encouragement to achieve similar things. So I guess it says, just like spiritual and moral progress, Quran also encouraged them in the material progress as well, which miracles points. So this is what I understood.
By mentioning.
Yes, by mentioning it.
Okay. So let me back up a little bit. Thus, just as by speaking of the spiritual and moral perfections of the prophets, it is encouraging people to benefit from them, so too, in discussing in their miracles, it is inferring encouragement to achieve similar things and to imitate them.
Okay, but Yusuf were right. Like the first "them" is for spiritual and moral,
Mhm.
and then the next part of the sentence it's for the material progress, which
progress.
referred by the miracles. Yes, okay.
It may even be said that, like spiritual and moral attainments, material attainments and wonders were first given to mankind as a gift by the hand of miracles. Okay. This is actually very, very interesting to me. I mean, it's not like every day somebody describes prophetic mission as in like a both spiritual and material. It blows my mind. To
Doesn't
that.
it conflict with the definition of Quran, especially like given by this discussion group? Because when we define Quran, we says it is a speech of God to me for guidance to my human side, right? And what I understand by human side is just spiritual, and then also, but now we are talking about the material guidance, or purpose as well. Doesn't it conflict with this definition?
Not to me. From the beginning, I was always disagree with the separation between material and spiritual, or meaning and
also
material and meaning. I always disagree with this separation.
and how you're gonna take those examples, like you will read and you will see like the sheep and the Prophet Noah, or watch and Joseph.
Yeah.
I mean, you cannot take. You have to go that famous mountain and look for the shape of the Noah. I mean, I don't understand this connection.
I guess we'll help each other to better understand. But I think just shortly, it refers to what we discussed so far. It's through material progress you are uncovering various different manifestations of your Creator. But obviously, this is very concise. But hopefully, we'll together we'll better understand what's the intention of author here by separating spiritual, moral, and material attainments. Not necessarily separating. It's the exact opposite, actually. The prophets, according to Nursi, can be considered as examples in both areas.
So I guess just
Go ahead. Yeah,
very
please.
shortly, because I mean it's a very nice question. Thinking about it, let's say in the example of Muhammad ﷺ, in his case, the miracle was in the form of this most eloquent speech. But while he was making this, and of course, again, be eloquent when you are expressing yourself is now what is being suggested also by looking at the Quran. So while you're trying to, it shouldn't be like be eloquent in deceiving people, for instance. So within the purposes of Quranic worldview and perspective. So be eloquent in expressing yourself and use it as a reminder for yourself of remembering your creator. So I guess the same could be applied to any of the miracles of science, whatever. But if we were to think of it the other way around, let's say somebody invented the ship, but when it becomes ship, it sounds very much like we are going to conquer somewhere. So this is very worldly. Why such a thing is being taught to mankind, because it doesn't really fit the purpose of Quran. But as was being discussed since the beginning, within the purposes of Quran, what would it mean to invent a ship, or what would it mean to invent a spacecraft, whatever. So I guess this part is making us have some trouble with combining the two, and him objecting us not to separate state and the church.
In which way they contribute to my understanding, realizing the capacity of my creator in this way, for example, by teaching a prophet or giving a miracle to a prophet, because the Quran says we taught Noah to make the boat. It means you understand that, look, we have to make the boat. It is an encouragement, and the text keeps use this word, repeating this word, then it's an encouragement, it's a reminder. But what we discover is nothing but beyond, more and beyond what my creator has already given me the capacity to discover them. It is within me. He is just encouraging me to turn this potentiality into capacity, so that you can make something as a result of what I have created, so that you can uncover the secrets in the creation, secrets of my quality.
So, for example, can we say that in this day and age, people are being we are being slaves of propaganda. So somebody is using some sort of eloquent language of conditioning people, but for a purpose that we end up doing whatever, let's say, the owners of large companies want us to buy. But Quran is encouraging with its eloquent language to express yourself in a way that it's going to be miraculously deep and clear, and a lot of meanings are going to be conveyed in there. So now I'm taking what sort of an encouragement is there for me in that relationship now. When I'm trying to express myself to someone, now that I'm trying to read it as we are raising the issue. So when I'm trying to express myself to someone, what do I understand in this endeavor? How do I see my creators being the one that teaches, not me, when I'm trying to express myself? So is it me, by putting those words in a good shape, that makes express himself or conveys the message to the other side? Or am I not experiencing that it's not me who is throwing, but it is he who is throwing? Am I realizing?
Your creator has endowed you with this quality.
Yeah.
So you are just becoming aware of it by using it. If you don't use it, you don't become aware of it. You don't know what is in your capacity, how you are created. It's huge.
Yeah.
That's why all the apparently material advancements or material discoveries encouraged in the Quran means, because when you discover something to do with matter, you are not discovering which is not related to your creator. You are already discovered. You are discovering how your creator was great and how his qualities are beyond imagination, infinite. So you are becoming more and more convinced of the quality of your creator.
Okay. Thank you. So it's time what should we do? Should we stop here or?
You can stop your demonstrating. I don't know, I have something to say, but
You have something to say? If you have something to say, I have something to say. I'm just going to finish the paragraph.
Okay.
Just 2 more sentences. Thus, what first gave man the gift of the ship, which was a miracle of Noah, peace be upon him, and the clock, a miracle of Joseph, peace be upon him, was the hand of miracles. It is a subtle indication to this truth that most craftsmen have a prophet as the patron of their craft. For example, seamen have Noah, watchmakers have Joseph, tailors have Idris, and so on. Okay, I don't have anything to say on top of what I've just read. So Birkan, final remarks, and then we can close it.
I don't know how final can do, but so I will just read one sentence. It may even be said that like spiritual and moral attainments, material attainments and wonders were first given to mankind as a gift by the hand of miracles. So whatever you have as a material attainment, like a ship, watch, or whatever, they are first given to man as a miracle. I guess the first part is also interesting. It says spiritual and moral attainments also were given them as a miracle. So I guess there are 2 ways of understanding this. The first way that we already discussed, that the prophets showed us these material attainments, how to do them, or they show us the ship, show us the watch, and other material progress, and then we are encouraged to continue the material attainment. But also it says like it is given them as miracles. So meaning whatever you see as a material attainment, progress, it is nothing but a miracle. So don't be fooled by claims that, as we were discussing from the beginning, we invented this, we did this and then that, and we come up with such a, the scientific advancement. No, they are nothing but miracles. Meaning they are nothing but pointing to their creator. So I guess we can also read this part which says it is encouraging people to benefit from them. So it not necessarily means that you should build the best ship. You should be the richest person in the material progress, right? You should be the one who develop everything and gain all the material possession. You don't have to read it that way. You can also read it as encouraging to. It is encouraging people to benefit from them. So it's encouraging people to see the miraculousness of them. So when you see a material progress in your day, don't forget it is nothing but a miracle given as a gift to you. So encouraging people in material, benefiting from the material progress, I guess doesn't need to be understood as encouraging people to gain or make material progress. This is one way of understanding it. Probably it is also true. Going back to our discussing about the discoveries, like doing something from the first hand, witnessing it. But also benefiting from material progress could also be read as realizing that or being aware that it is nothing but a miracle. It is nothing but a pointer to the Creator.
سبحانك لا علم لنا إلا ما علمتنا إنك أنت العليم الحكيم وآخر دعواهم الحمد لله رب العالمين. الفاتحة.